Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the vlog. It is President's Day, and Orange City Racing and Car Club is doing some sort of quads promotion. I don't quite know the details, but I'll put it up here somewhere on the screen for you. As always, if you enjoy, like and subscribe. Let's get to it.
So in this high hand promotion, various quads pay an extra bonus of somewhere between $300 to $1,500. And once those quads have been hit, they come off the board and they no longer pay that bonus. In the first hand of the night, there's a button straddle. We are under the gun with pocket sixes. We see calls from the small blind and the big blind. So with the action on me, I make the call as well. The hijack also calls, as does the cutoff. When the action's on the button, he squeezes to $35. This guy's been very active early on and seems like he might be a 2-5 player that's waiting for a seat to open up because I saw him buy in at the cage for like $3,000. Anyways, we see a call from the small blind, the big blind, I call as well, as does the hijack and the cutoff. We're going 5 ways to this already big pot. The flop is deuce 10-10, so kind of an interesting flop here. The action checks to me, and now it's decision time. I don't like a check as it gives a hand like ace high the ability to stay in for free, or it can give one of the other opponents behind me the betting lead. With so much money in the pot, I don't see a reason to bet something like $50 and leave myself 80 to 100 behind. I think there's only one of 2 plays, either a check fold or to shove and put ace high and lower pocket pair hands in a tough spot. So I take a deep breath and I announce all in. It folds around to the button straddler who doesn't think too long and he makes the call. With the action on the small blind, he says he has to call, and so he calls for less. So we're going off to this run out 3 ways. The turn is a deuce of clubs, double pairing the board. The river is a 10 of hearts. It's a pretty interesting board, as I have to assume that somebody playing an ace high hand or a low pocket pair probably thinks they're good here. I flip over my hand. The small blind ends up flipping over pocket 5s and the button mucks. So I scoop in a huge pot early in the day. The very next hand, we're in the big blind and we look down at ace king of diamonds. There's a call from under the gun and it folds all the way around to the hijack who calls as well. The cutoff calls and the small blind calls, so when the action's on me, I bump it up to $15. We see a call from under the gun as well as the hijack before the cutoff then re-raises for $22 all in. The small blind folds, and unfortunately the raise from the cutoff is not enough to reopen the betting, or else I'd 4-bet big here. So instead I call, as do the other 2 players. We're off to a flop 4 ways with 1 all in. The flop is ace 6-5 rainbow, so I've whiffed here. It checks to the hijack who bets $20. I'd like to call and continue with 2 overs, but there's not even a diamond on the board, and I'm still trying to get my chips organized and everything, so I let this one go. We're in +1 this time and we look down at pocket 3s. It folds to me and I go ahead and limp. The cutoff limps as well. The small blind also calls, and when the action's on the big blind, he bumps it up to $8. I make the call, as does the small blind. We're off to a flop 3 ways. There's a 3 in the window as the flop is 3-9 deuce, so I flop middle set here. The small blind leads for $12. I have been playing hands way too aggressively, and I've noticed it, and I'm trying to get better about just calling and checking strong hands. So rather than raising here, I elect to just call. That brings in the original raiser as well. We're still 3 ways to a turn. The turn is a 6 of diamonds, so 4-5 gets there. The action checks to me, and this is where I'm going to start piling money in the middle, and so I bet $60. The small blind is the only caller here, so we're off to a river heads up. The river is an ace of hearts, and part of me thinks it's a good card because maybe somebody was playing a hand like ace king. On the other hand, an ace probably scares hands like pocket 10s or pocket jacks or lower pocket pairs. The action checks to me, and I decide to go ahead and rip it here, and my opponent ends up making the fold. We are 6-handed, we're in the small blind, and we look down at ace 5 of diamonds. We see a call from the cutoff before the button bumps it up to $10. I make the call, the big blind and the cutoff fold, so we're going heads up out of position. The flop is deuce 4-9 with 1 diamond, so I flopped a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw here. I check and the button bets $15. Seems like a standard C bet, so I call with my gut shot and backdoor flush draw. We're off to see a turn. The turn is a 5 of clubs, so now I've picked up some equity with second pair here. I check, and the button ends up slowing down and checks behind. The river is a 2 of diamonds, so it pairs the board. I check with the intention of calling any reasonable bet. I want to give my opponent a chance to bet with any of his bluffs, but he ends up checking behind and he rolls over ace king. And for a second, I think he's good, so I don't really react. Then I say,
Oh, I have a 5, sorry. I'm slow. Oh, you have a straight. No? Sorry, man.
a totally accidental slow roll. Things have just been a little bit crazy being up $400 in less than 30 minutes. We're under the gun this time when we look down at Queen 10 offsuit. You guys hate when I open with this hand from early position, so I open for $10. We see a call from +1 as well as the small blind, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is King 10-8, so I've caught middle pair here with some backdoor draws. It checks to +1 who bets out for $15. The small blind calls and I make the call as well. We're still 3 ways to a turn. The turn is a 10 of diamonds, so now I have trips. It checks to me, and again, I'm trying to work on checking my strong hands more and not always firing, so I check as well. +1 checks behind, we're off to the river. The river is a king, and I hate this card. The small blind checks, I decide to go ahead and check, and +1 bets out $20. The small blind folds, and I just have to pay it off here.
I guess I just have to pay you off.
You got a 10?
Yeah.
That's the king.
Yeah.
+1 flips over ace king. There's a button straddle. We're in the big blind with ace king of clubs. We see a call from the small blind, and then when the action's on me, I bump it up to $20. Under the gun makes the call, and the button is the only other caller, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is ace 6-7, so I flop top pair here. I check, looking for under the gun to fire out again, but he actually also checks, and the button checks as well, so we're off to a turn. The turn's a blank, doesn't change anything, so I better start betting now, and I bet out $45. Under the gun makes the call, but the button folds, so we're off to a river heads up. The river is a king, so now it gives me 2 pair, and I'm not sure what it really does for the actual value of my hand. However, I can't just check it and let him take the betting lead, so I fire for $125. He doesn't snap call, which is good, and I actually think I may be up against a hand like ace queen, or maybe pocket queens or jacks. Then he says something.
And I should just re-raised you. I really think you got pocket kings.
What's that?
I really think you got pocket kings. I should just re-raise.
First call, Stony,
125
1 limit. Stony, 1 limit.
I did not want to see any face calls. Oh, this is my fault.
The more he talks and contemplates, it feels more like he has a set, but it seems like he might be willing to lay his set down. Eventually, my opponent makes the call.
Played this hand so bad. You got pocket kings, huh?
I show my hand, and he's relieved as he flips over pocket 6s for middle set. We're 6-handed once again. We're in the small blind, and we look down at pocket kings. It folds all the way around to the button who calls. When the action's on me, I bump it up to $10. The big blind folds, but the button calls, so we're off to a flop out of position heads up. The flop is king deuce 8 with 2 spades, so I flop top set here. I fire out for $15, and the button calls pretty quickly, so we're off to the turn. The turn is a 3 of clubs, so it brings a double flush draw on the board. I want to continue to put pressure on drawing hands and strong pocket pairs, so this time I bet out for $45. My opponent then shoves for $100. Perfect. I make the call. We're off to see a river. The river is an ace of spades, and I say,
That can't be good for me. I have a set.
Ooh.
and my opponent actually rolls over pocket aces, nailing one of his 2 outs on the river. F***ing gross. We are straddling from the button and we look down at pocket 9s. We see a fold from the small blind before the big blind, under the gun, and +1 all make the call. It folds around to me and I put in the squeeze for $20. Probably should have gone a little bit larger here. The big blind folds, but under the gun and +1 both make the call, so we're off to a flop in position 3 ways. The flop is king queen 8, so not ideal for my hand. Under the Gun takes the lead and bets out for $10. +1 makes the fold, and it's a really small bet, so I decide to go ahead and call and peel one off. The turn is a 2, that shouldn't change anything. And once again, my opponent bets small, and he bets $15. He's got about $75 behind, so I don't think there's any point in re-raising, as a king or a queen are probably never going to fold here. But I feel like he's giving me a really good price to try to catch up, so I end up making the call. We're off to the river. The river is not great. It's an ace of clubs, so it brings in the club flush, and it also brings in a straight draw. My opponent once again fires for a measly $15. It's tiny, but there's no way I'm ahead here, so I end up making the fold. At this point, I'm starting to get frustrated. I was up $400 at one point, and now I'm down $75. The hands are playing very fast, and between taking notes and trying to organize the media on my phone, I really feel it's impairing my judgment. So I decided to go ahead and pack the camera up and just continue playing. I played for about another 2 hours, and I was actually able to book a small win, and it just has me wondering, was the vlog distracting me?
So wrapping up that session, we were into the game for $275. We were out for $349. So we managed to claw our way back and book a small win. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more poker content. And you can follow me on Instagram at 7cardflushpoker.